Good morning. And as you've just heard, I'm going to talk about our denomination's buildings. And we have an awful lot of them. The map on the right are the associations in the north and south, speaking. And the map on the left is the association in the east, and they're the chapels. That's about 465 church buildings. And as you've heard, if we add in the manses and the chapel houses, it increases that number by a few hundred. Our buildings are a blessing, a springboard for development, and we've already heard of some of those. But they can also be a financial millstone. The cost of heating, maintaining, insuring, repairing our buildings is increasing year on year. You don't need me to tell you that. If we divide our total membership by the number of church buildings, we get an average of about 26 members per building, which is a lot of responsibility on very few shoulders. And that assumes, of course, that absolutely everyone is actively involved and attends regularly. Let's look at that a little more closely. The table on the top table there is the breakdown of our latest figures of how many churches fall into different membership bands. For example, if you look at the top line, 140 church buildings have got less than 10 members. That's 30% of them, and so on. If you Google what is considered a small church in the UK, you'll get a different answer from different denominations, but the consensus appears to fall between 40 and 60 members as a definition of a small church. If you look at the second table, it's a bit worrying, isn't it? That nearly 70% of our buildings have got less than 25 members or less, and nearly 90% have got 50 members or less. Only therefore 11% are in the small to mid size categories. As a denomination, we've already heard, we spend more on buildings than we do on ministry, our core activity. And clearly, I'm suggesting to you that the number of buildings we have is unsustainable, both financially and environmentally. Let me illustrate that a little bit further. If you draw a 5-mile circle around where we are at the moment, how many of our churches will be inside that circle? Well, it's not a quiz question. Let's have a look.
Good.
I make that 9 of our churches in less than 5 miles from each other. And that's just our churches. There's a website you can look at, and I found 31 other denominations within that same circle. And that's not unique. You could do exactly the same exercise for other parts of Wales. This conference is about making better use of our buildings. So what are the options when it comes to having an unsustainable number of churches? And some of these are fairly obvious, but they're worth stating. One of the options, of course, is to merge congregations. More of that in a minute. But that's where 2 or more chapels merge to form one larger membership in one location. or it could be one of our chapels merging with another denomination to form a united church. You want to see that in action? No expense spared. The other option, of course, is sharing a building. This could be making use of a community building. We've heard good examples of that, for using it for worship, or it could be an agreement for two or more congregations to keep their identity and fellowship, but hold separate services in a shared building. Let me give you an example. We're supposed to be a bilingual church. So why do we have to have separate buildings? Last year, the elders of my home church decided it was shameful that we knew nothing about our nearest PCW neighbours. Mind you, they were some of those dreadful Welsh-speaking association in the North lot. But despite that, we decided to invite them for an afternoon tea. And you know what? We got on like a house on fire. They were just like us. It's unbelievable. We discovered that one of their members and one of our members discovered they were next door neighbours. They knew they were churchgoers, but they just didn't know they went to the same denomination. I forgot this bit as well. It was worth coming just for that, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think.
Okay. The next one, you've heard about so far. I'm more familiar with the concept of forming a community hub with other groups and organisations to use our buildings.
What?
I'm not going to animate that, by the way. I tried, but it's no way. Do we make the most of it? Are they just paying guests, or do we include them, people who use our buildings, as part of our fellowship? Do they belong, or are they just helping us pay the bill? The question is, why do we find it so difficult to even consider merging or sharing with another church? Quite simply, we love our home church, whatever condition it's in. We're emotionally attached to those stones. They're the buildings where we found faith, got married, baptized our children, and we're probably hoping to have our funerals there. I'm sure we all know churches whose only plan is to carry on as they are until they've spent all the money and then close. Surely that's not good use of the raw resources God has given us. There must be a better way. That's why this conference is happening. We recognize sensitivity is crucial. As a connection, we cannot force any plans through to streamline or reorganize our buildings. The reality is that the people best placed to bring about positive change in the future of our buildings is you, the local churches, the presbyteries. Different situations need different solutions. You know the local situation better than anyone. Now then, in the sessions that's going to follow, you might hear of alternative strategies that you can use. Question: if we have too many buildings, what do we do with the surplus ones? The answer at the moment seems to be to sell them. How much do we get? Often the short answer is not a lot. Looking at the Properties Board's record for 2024, the average net proceeds that chapels we sold was just over £93,500. The Presbytery Strategy Fund, the local church, get 50% of the net proceeds, so an average of 46,750. That's probably sufficient for one mission worker for just over 1 year for the sale of the building. And when that's gone, it's gone. That's assuming, of course, is some of that money isn't kept back for the upkeep of the cemetery. Some of the speakers, again, who are going to follow, may outline alternative ways of making better use of our redundant building as an investment or develop them for community purposes, etc. And finally, making better use of our buildings is not easy. If it was, we'd have done it by now. The church's current situation is unsustainable. We have to rationalise our buildings and make better use of them. A building working party has been tasked by the General Assembly with establishing a framework which helps us all to make better use of our buildings. Setting up this conference was the first action of that working party as one of the requirements of that working party. You don't have to wait for the working party to complete all their work. We hope that all presbyteries and all local churches will start to have open conversations to talk about their plans and a way forward. We seem to be afraid to talk about them. We need to start facing and holding those conversations about how to make better use of our buildings. And we don't just mean those churches and buildings that have got 25 members or less. We mean all of them. We've all got a part to play in making better use of our buildings. Thank you.